of the Mesilas Yesharim, the path of the just, the straight and narrow path. Okay, I have to adjust my camera here a little bit. So we're going to talk today about the trait of cleanliness. This is a little bit of a departure from what we have normally been learning because it's a different approach to one's experience with mitzvah performance and with the attachment to sin. And we're gonna go through it. This is not a particularly long chapter. The pratim, the individual breakdown of how to do it, is a much longer chapter and will require more attention to details than this chapter. This is going to be just a very brief overview. And when we get to chapter 11, we'll have multiple classes on discussing what this looks like in actuality, but we're going to talk about the general issues involving this specific trait of nikiyas, of cleanliness, right? So we're cleaning something. What are we cleaning? Miyas nikiyas hi hayesa adam naki lagamri mikol mida ra'a mikol chet. So when we say be clean, we mean to wipe clean from the bad things that you do and from all the sins. Lo dai mimasha hachet bo meforsim v'galu ela gam kein mimasha halev nifte bo lehoros heter b'davar ka'asher nachkor alav be'emes nimsa shelo haya haheter hahu niraloi. Elibnei hayos halev adayin nagua ksas min hataiva kilo tahar mino mikol v'chol al kain timshecheu lahakelo. It's not enough to just sort of say, I know what the sin is, right? It's more than that. The heart itself is sort of drawn towards certain activities, and it tries to find out ways in which it can continue to attach to these activities. And it will look at ways in which it can attach itself to them. And it's not that the heart is so attached to it. It's that you haven't really cleansed it from all of the things that draw it towards these other behaviors. But okay, so a person, right? We already talked about people who are being zahir and being zaris. You're being careful and you're being proactive. Now it's like saying, it's like saying to yourself, do I want to have guests? If I have guests, I'm gonna have to clean the house. All right, I'm gonna clean the house. So that's what we're talking about over here, is doing that exact process. A person who wants to cleanse himself of those types of issues and to remove from himself any type of outline of being drawn towards things, he has to look at things with a clear perspective. And his choices have to be perfect and they have to be completely clear. And he shouldn't be drawn towards any type of subversive desire. Anything that appears like it's a sin, like you're missing your mark, it seems like the smallest thing of all. You should say, you know what, I recognize that as some type of destructive force, and I'm not going to have it around. Right? So he says that the idea of this is that a person should have full, clear, complete cleanliness in all their actions. He says, just like the Gemara says in Sanhedrin 23, he says there are people who are the cleanest of minds in Yerushalayim. Okay, so let's talk about the difference between being watchful and being clean. Okay? So if we're talking about the guy who's being watchful, he's watching out for what he's doing. What he's watching out for is those actions that don't seem to demonstrate that there's any type of sin attached to them. And it seems like it would be a clear sinful action to go ahead and attach yourself to that. So it's the watchfulness is sort of the obvious stuff. So it's not that you're going to do it. You're already not going to do it. But you haven't become a master of yourself. You haven't been able to dominate that feeling, that natural inclination that pulls you towards these things. What happens is that you have this, what we call an atiyah. You have this inclination, you have this movement in a certain direction to see what would allow me to do certain things where the side effects of it, the bad side effects of it, aren't so clear. V'zeh ki af bishu mishtadel l'chvosh es yitzo v'lichvos es hatava so lo pnei zeh yeshana es tivo lo yuchol hasir melibo hatava gufanis. What this really is an effort to overcome what is your natural feelings and to basically change your own nature in order to remove from your heart that primeval desire, that physical inclination or want to do certain things. So what you're aiming to do with this cleansing, okay, with the cleanliness, is to conquer those feelings and to only follow reason and rational actions and not after those feelings. Nonetheless, you're still going to feel some of the desire of the sort of the physical needs and what your body feels it wants to get you to go in that direction. It's basically gonna try to convince you to go do those things. Hine koach hahergal hazeh yarchik oso me'inyoni hachomer v'yadbika atato al hashlemus hanafshi ad shesof sof yuchal hagia el hanikon hashalem. However, when you start accustoming yourself to the custom of significant watchfulness, until you clean yourself with an initial cleansing from all sin of the most obvious ones, and you are accustoming yourself to service and to being zealous. So all these things all lead up to the cleanliness. You invigorate yourself to become more loving of your Creator and your desire to be towards Him. And the force that compels you at this point to go into this new pattern is that you're staying away from those physical things that force you to stick to those things. And you're going to instead attach yourself to the thought processes that attach you to the most perfect parts of the soul. Until at the very end, when you get to the most clean part of yourself, right, the most wiped clean that you could be, you will see that Shakar Yichva Eish Hataiva Hagufanis Bilibo Behis Gaber Bo Hachemda V'Ha'Elohis. So the more attached you come to the love of God, you have seen that your heart has basically dominated over these other traits. And you're going to be so clean, right? You're going to have such a clean view of where you need to be that's what all of these lead up to. So we're basically saying that the watchfulness and the zealousness are basically an attempt to go through all of those things that you've done and scrub them clean of anything that would leave you unable to use your intellect properly. So we're going through all of those things that move the body. That force that was doing your sort of initial normal routine, we are refocusing it and reprogramming it in order to get it hyper focused on doing this service as as lovingly as possible. So you're not saying, "Ugh, I have to give up this. I would like to go sit in the pool all day." Right? But I realize that I have certain mitzvahs. I could be helping poor people. I could be teaching Torah. I could be learning Torah. Right? There's certain things that could improve. So what is the value of this trait? King David used to praise this trait in the following way. It's in Tehillim Chaf Vav 26:6. I will wash my hands in cleanliness, and I will surround your altar, O Hashem. Why? Ki ve'emes rak mi sheyinak lagamri mikol nidnun chet va'avon hu havra'ui l'ros es pnei HaMelech Hashem. Ki zula zeh ein lo ela levush ulehiklem milafanav kemamar Ezra Sofer Elokai boshti vichlamti laharim Elokai panay elecha. If you don't cleanse yourself, then you're not going to see the truth of the matter, that when you're looking to come as close as possible to the King himself, Hashem himself, if you don't remove every trace of sin and every little movement that could take you in the wrong direction, you're going to have a statement almost like Ezra says, I am embarrassed and I am humiliated to raise my face to you, O Hashem. This is in Ezra chapter 9. And there was a lot of sin going on at the time when Ezra was coming back to Yerushalayim. Don't feel that way. Instead, feel like this way. You should feel that getting to cleanliness is a really difficult task to do it well and do it perfectly. Once you start looking at the problems, then staying away from the obvious sins that are attached to it, they're actually kind of small, because you're gonna see them once you start cleaning it out. The particulars of requiring you to be very clean in your actions and the cleanliness of it, that's still tough. Because the body's desire to kind of cover up the problems is going to be the issue with cleaning it all up, right? They're gonna sweep it under the rug, metaphorically, at least intellectually. Just like we say by Parshas Akev. This is a Gemara in Avodah Zarah 18b. That sins which a person treads upon with his heels, that they're not important, you feel, right? At the time of judgment, they're going to come back and say, Aha. Well, derech se amru zchon livracha, Rabba Magazel, Niotam Barayos, V'chulam Be'evek Lashon Hara, Kipnei Rov Dakuso, Kol B'nei Adam Nichshalim Bo, B'masha Ein Makirin Asa. And that's why the Gemara says in Bava Basra also, in 165a, he says, so many people are guilty of forms of theft, not as many people are forms of some immorality, but everyone has traces of slander in everything that they do. Because there's so many particulars about it, it's hard to be aware of every little particular at all times. Amram Zichron V'racha, Shedavid Haya Nizhar Umenaka Asug Nikan Gamur Mikol Eila. So in Eicha Rabbah, it says in chapter 15 over there, that even King David was very careful to cleanse himself of all of these type of issues. And that's why King David was always so sure he would win all of his wars. And that's why he would say in Tehillim, this is in chapter 18, he says, I wish to pursue all of my enemies until I get them and destroy them completely. However, his descendants, Yehoshaphat and Asa and Chizkiah, they didn't have such faith. They needed to do more. He says further in that same capital, he says, reward me, Hashem, according to the righteous things that I have done, according to the way in which I have done things myself, the purity of those things that I've done with myself. Amar Oid, V'yasher Shem Li Katsid Ki Kavor Yadai Leneged Einai, V'hu Abor Hanikayon Hazesh Zacharno. And that's what we say that when I ask that you to clean off my hands against my eyes, that is the cleanliness that we are talking about. He says that's why I've been able to go ahead and seek out their platoons. Erdof Oyev Asigim. That's why I can go ahead and seek them and destroy them. Who Asma Omer Od. And furthermore, in the same capital, he says, right? Who's the one that when I say who can go ahead and stand up and say, I can approach the level of Hashem, are those who have the clean hands and the clean heart. So therefore we see from King David that you have to have this in order to be a successful person in listening to his battle, but in life in general. It sounds attainable, but it's very difficult. Kiteva Adam Chalash V'libo Nifta al Nikala. Hubatel Ato Hadavar Sheyuchal Livsobehem K'dei Hata'ah. Uvana Shemisha Higia L'Zosamida Kvar Higia L'Madrega Gedola Ki Bifnei Milchama Chazaka Amad V'Nitzach V'Navoata Lavar Prate Hamida Hazos. So at the conclusion of the chapter, he says it's difficult to go ahead and get to this level if you don't feel you have the ability to do it. If you feel kind of weak to do it. If you feel that you're easily dragged to certain feelings, and you just sort of have that sort of procrastination built into yourself to allow yourself certain things, allow yourself certain pleasures, or you're constantly saying, I need this for my whatever, my XYZ, right? If you're going to go ahead and give yourself those permissions, you're going to see yourself constantly dragging yourself into those levels. However, a person who's worked hard to reach this level, this person has reached a very high level. It's impressive because it's an incredible battle, and you're succeeding. And at this point, we will now explain the different parts that make up this trait. That's how he concludes the chapter. Okay, and so we'll pick up next time with different parts of Nikius. There's a lot of them, he says. So it'll be a long investigation into different parts of cleanliness, but we will endeavor to be successful. Thank you for joining, and we will see you next time.